By the same token, Gina, a lot of supporters are not saying this is not my candidate. In fact, they love Donald Trump even more. They're saying this is why we love the guy in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, look, Fox News, every single network across the country is talking about Fox News. Everybody's talking about Donald Trump. He's still dominating the headlines. I don't really see where conservatives lose in this at all. What I think is interesting is the fact that there is one person who's running for president who's largely, completely inaccessible to media, and that's Hillary Clinton. So I think if anybody's going to hold that inaccessibility against anyone, it's going to be against Hillary Clinton.
And of course, guys, Tammy and Todd, Tammy, Donald Trump has found a way to turn every single thing that the mass media thought was a negative into a positive every single time. And this, a lot of people are thinking, may end up being the same thing.
It could be. We will know on Monday, won't we? And look, I think that this is different in the sense that we are getting down to brass tacks. Already the feedback out of Iowa with various interviews and miniature polling is that the Iowans are seeing this as erratic. They're not judging it about whether they like Megyn Kelly or Fox News. It's like, well, wait a minute. This seems to be a little unsteady. This is more like kind of a tantrum. But even if it's not, do we want this kind of behavior? Is this what we need from a president in this next 4 years? And Iowa's not liking it. I think that it's clear Ted Cruz and Mr. Trump are tied. I think that this will not go well for him, and it reinforces my feeling that Mr. Cruz will win. But I do agree with Gina to some degree that everybody wins in this regard, because last time there was a boycott of Fox News requested by Mr. Trump, Megyn Kelly's show became #1, right, and Fox News had some fabulous ratings.
And on the election front, Todd, you know, the election is still to be held. Heck, you know what? The debate is still to be held. You know,
yes,
we never know
sure
what can happen in the next 24 hours. But having said that, there's still a large swath of undecided voters out there, and you have to wonder what they're thinking. I mean, for them, if they haven't gone to Donald Trump yet, the PC argument may not resonate, and it may be more about what looks presidential.
Well, absolutely. And look, first of all, I want to say props to Ted Cruz for the reference to Monty Python, the runaway, brave, brave Sir Robin ad that he put out poking fun at Donald Trump. But I think this does hurt Donald Trump. But even more than that, I think this is disappointing for the voters of Iowa. These debates give them a chance to see these presidential candidates in high anxiety situations. They want to see them answer the tough questions. As I wrote in my column today at foxnews.com, Charles, I was quoting Dabo Swinney, the head football coach at Clemson University. This is BYOG time. Bring your own guts. Yeah. Donald Trump needs to man up and show up at the debate.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. And for folks who say, well, it's Reagan-esque. I think one thing about Reagan is he learned a lot of things on the job. And the Reagan-esque part of this, in my mind, guys, is the fact that, yes, he did miss that debate, but he recognized right away that it was a mistake. He fired the guy who came up with the idea. He paid for the next debate out of his pocket. He went on to a runaway victory in the GOP and one of the biggest landslides ever in presidential elections. So it remains to be seen. But here's another thing a lot of people are bringing up. They say that Donald Trump, ironically enough, had questioned Michelle Bachmann's loyalty when she pulled out of his debate with News back in 2011. So, again, Gina, I want to ask you, for those who are undecided, how does this work? Is there a double standard here? Can this be repaired in some kind of way?
You know, if anyone can repair things like this, it's Donald Trump. I think the only danger you run into where Donald Trump and the predictability is if you try to predict anything about Donald Trump. He seems to be able to turn most anything into a win, and my guess is this will be no exception. I really don't think that that this is gonna be some big thing that's gonna have major impact in the whole presidential race as a whole. This is a moment, as I said, he's dominating the headlines. Fox News is dominating the headlines, and nobody's talking about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And in my book, that's a good thing.
Although I will say, Tammy, is that even Ted Cruz admitted yesterday or the day before that if Trump were to win Iowa, he could run the table. So it might change the dynamics. Ultimately, it may have an impact beyond Iowa.
Yeah, I mentioned that to you also. And that, look, I've been on this program many times defending Mr. Trump. But there's a culmination that happens as everyone starts to get very serious about the choices they make. And as I'm an position now to where you have this culmination of an attitude that begins to feel uncomfortable. And I think that that's one of the issues we're facing here.
Tammy's absolutely right. One of the things that no one's explored yet is this conversion experience that Donald Trump had from the pro-abortion, pro-Hillary, pro-Obama, friend of Nancy Pelosi, to all of a sudden becoming a diehard conservative. I want to know, how did that happen? Help us understand how you went from this point to this point in just a short amount of time. And I think the average voter in Iowa wants to know the same.
Well, we'll see. You know, we're going to talk about the evangelicals situation there, because that ultimately is the centerpiece of what's going to work in Iowa and perhaps ultimately get the next GOP candidate in the White House. But Vince, you know, back to what's happening right now on the ground in Iowa. There's a mad dash, a mad scramble. And again, ultimately, if this tilts Iowa to Ted Cruz, if this does make a difference, historians will look back and say it was a mistake.
Yeah, it could be a fatal mistake. And I think that, you know, the press and political pundits in general have been so chastened by the behavior of Donald Trump throughout this race, because predicting his decisions, what the impact would be, has always gone so poorly. But I don't believe that should mean that at some point he won't make a dire mistake. This could be the Trump University of his campaign. This could be that one thing that he does that really disrupts his ability to win. And especially in Iowa, where the margins are so close and so many second picks for so many of these Republican voters is Ted Cruz. Donald Trump cannot afford to waste even 2% of that vote over something like this.
And by the same token, guys, you know what? People are angry, and it's not just the GOP. It's all around this country. People have been let down by this government that's $19 trillion in debt. America has lost its way. It's lost its prestige. It's lost its preeminence. People are upset across the board. And these are folks that resonate, that Donald Trump resonates with. And, you know, Gina, every time we bring up the pundits, I think they resonate more with them, because they don't care about the pundits, the people that led us down this path in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that the thing about Iowa that we have to realize is that the person that wins Iowa isn't always the person that goes on to be president. I think that Iowa is super significant if Trump wins. If Trump doesn't win, then it's still, you know, still a little bit up in the air. If Trump does win, I think people will start looking at it more as perhaps he is truly a front runner. He will have proven himself at that point, and there will be some votes to count to actually, confirm that. So I think that's the significance of Iowa, is if Trump wins. If he doesn't win, it's still anybody's game, and we're still all watching.
Real quick, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say the big issue here is not really who the conservatives coalesce around. It's who the establishment Republicans will coalesce around. And if Trump wins, I think that will happen.
Well, I tell you what, we don't talk about it a lot. We will later in the show. That establishment lane is about 50% right now, and it's still wide open.